Hi, this is my patient named Jake. Jake is a 17-year-old male who is the quarterback for his high school football team. He has played football for 10 years and has been on his high school varsity team for 3 out of his 4 years in high school. As well as being on the football team, he is the oldest out of him and his little sister Sophie. On the weekends, he enjoys hanging out with friends and doing activities such as going to the movies or going to the beach. When he is not with his friends, he is usually spending much needed time with his girlfriend of 5 years, Nicole. When they hang out, they usually go to the boardwalk and ride the Ferris wheel, even though she hates heights. Now, you're probably wondering how he came to be my patient, why I'm even talking about him, and here's the story of what happened. It was a Friday night football game against the town rival. He was running with the ball, trying to figure out where his teammates were so they can run the ball to the end zone. Before you know it, he was side tackled by a player on the other team. He quickly fell to the ground and was found unconscious by players as well as the athletic trainer who was always present at the sporting events. The athletic trainer quickly realized that something very wrong happened to Jake, and before anyone knew it, the ambulance was there on the scene and placed him on a stretcher and quickly got him to the emergency room. Once at the hospital, he was rushed back to get a CT scan of the head, which was evaluated for swelling and or bleeding in the brain. After a doctor viewed his CT scans, Jake was diagnosed with second impact syndrome. According to Physiopedia, second impact syndrome, which is also known as SIS, most commonly describes the occurrence of rapid cerebral edema after a second head injury that is sustained while an individual is still recovering from symptoms caused by a prior concussion. By the time I was able to evaluate Jake, he was diagnosed with SIS for 4 days before the doctor referred him to see an occupational therapist. After being with me for a couple weeks, we decided to work on sequencing and memory. Since we decided to work on sequencing and memory, it was only right that the first activity we did was creating a daily schedule. The occupation that it impacted was education. Relevance and meaning used in getting patient back on daily schedule. The tools that were used are pen, pencil, paper planner, pencil grip or pen grip, activity pictures, activity chart, Velcro so the pictures can stick to the activity chart. The space needed, moderately large table / flat surface to work on schedule and well-lit environment. I decided to tackle the occupation of education because second impact syndrome affects students in school. It affects students in school by the student might be more tired than usual, the student may feel irritable, sad, or emotional. The student will experience difficulty with learning new concepts or remember what they have already learned. And they might also have trouble concentrating, thinking, or making decisions. While working on a daily schedule, it is important that we keep the proper sequencing and timing so you can complete the task. The first thing that we would do would position Jake at the table. Then he'll grab the pencil, which would be grading up, or grab activity pictures. Then he'll take the activity chart / daily planner, which would be grading up, and position in front of him. Then we'd have the patient place a picture in the correct place on an activity chart that matches up with the designated times. For grading up, we would have the patient write the activity next to the designated times for each activity. Next, we would work on having the patient read the activity chart or planner to the OT. Then we would have the OT rearrange the pictures and have the patient start with placing or writing the last activity first, and then work their way to the first activity. The last thing we'd work on is having the patients read the activity from the bottom to the top. While using the OTPF, some performance skills that are impacted by SIS are motor and praxis, occupational performance skills observed as the person interacts with and moves task objects and self around task environment. SIS affects this performance skill by affecting coordination, stabilization, and manipulation. As well as motor and praxis, it also affects process. Process is observed as a person selects, interacts with, and uses tasks, tools, and materials, carries out individual actions and steps, and modifies performance when problems are encountered. SIS affects this performance skill by affecting sequencing, attention, and choosing by being unable to process and select necessary tools and materials for the chosen task. SIS also affected his performance patterns. It affected the role in which he played, which was the football team captain for years, as well as being known as a popular football player everyone wanted to be around. It also affected his habits by making him pick up a new hobby after school other than going to football practice. Football practice was a habit for him because he did it every day for 4 years since he even played club during the off season. This also impacted spirituality because football was how he was able to seek and express meaning to himself and to others. He didn't just see football as a sport, but as a way of life and a way that he would make it big someday, with a dream to play for the Chargers someday. This impacted school because he was striving to make good grades so he was able to play college football before he made it big. As well as impacting his spirituality, his movement functions were also severely impacted. His motor reflexes were impacted as well. This impacted him in not wanting to get out of bed some days to go to school and him being in pain, which ultimately affected his mood and emotions. This was Jake's story, and I hope you learned something from it.